So, good afternoon. So, what we discussed in the earlier class? Summarize, Amit, about Rousseau and Kant. Both are which philosophers? Romanticists. What are their views on enlightenment? What are the views on enlightenment? Sanjiti. Inequality. What are his works? Discourse on origin of inequality. Conventional inequality. Hard work. So that inequality is natural in nature and it can't be prevented. Which is egalitarian, which is non-egalitarian? That's an example, like yes. But what he's saying, in close to nature, the societies were, or simply we can say, when in close to nature, man was free and equal. A man in civilized state was unequal. Why? Why? In civilized state, with the emergence of various civilized institutions, so there emerges the concept of private property, and the the concept of private property leads to or gives rise to greed and corruption, which further results in exploitation, and that exploitation creates inequality, and this inequality is forced, and that can be avoided, prevented. That is by that is the view of Rousseau on inequality as part of enlightenment. Next, view on Kant. What are the works of Kant? Critic of pure reason, critic of judgment. So through critic of pure reason, what he's saying, what he was saying? How this immaturity? What is the reason for this immaturity? Lack of or inability to use one's own understanding, and they always dependent on others, or they were always directed by others. And What are his views on skepticism? Where he's spoken about rationality. Right. Okay. Skepticism, he emphasized more on emotions rather than pure crude logic. That is rationality. So he emphasized on rationality or emotions. Emotions. Okay. So right. So let us see. Origin and rise of socialism. Okay. So see, what is socialism basically? Welfare of all. Anything else? Hmm? Resource? Okay. Hmm. Hmm. वही था ना socialism emphasis on. Continue. It is a social, economic, and political theory that calls for it's a social and economic and political theory that calls for public ownership and control of property and resources rather than private control. हाँ, नहीं religion से क्या लेना? No. Why religion here? नहीं, there's no relation with that. Here we are talking about as a social theory, economic theory, and political. So it's a social, economic, and political philosophy that calls for public ownership of public ownership and control of resources. Okay. See, it is like what? It is like we can say public ownership, state ownership, social control. Hmm? Which one? State ownership is. But that is also part of socialism only. That is an extreme form of socialism. What is that? Communism. So where state controls the resources and distributes among the people. Okay. So, but you're referring to overall broad perspective, right? So, which is like public ownership, state ownership, social control, social enterprises. Community ownership, right? And cooperative, right? Or public cooperation. Public. See, basically, see here socialism says that here in a society, a person does not live in isolation, rather live in cooperation. Understood? In which society? In a socialistic society. In a socialistic society, a person does not live in isolation with each other or isolation, but rather lives in cooperation. Okay. So that means that's what we refer to public cooperation. Why not? See, but I will continue, and we'll come to this part again. Okay, so you will get more clarity. See, let us talk about capitalism. Capitalism is a economic concept. So what is this capitalism? In capitalism, it is private control and ownership of resources, right? And this is profit oriented. It's not welfare oriented. It is profit oriented, right? So, speaking about socialism, see, generally, socialist says that capitalism leads to exploitation. Capitalism leads to exploitation because capitalism is carried by private individuals that is that ownership of wealth and resources, listen carefully, ownership of wealth and resources were in the hands of few private individuals. That's what capitalism. That's why it is profit oriented, right? The ownership of wealth and resources were in the hands of few private individuals. So these private individuals now will have power and wealth. Through the ownership of wealth and resources, they accumulate power and wealth. With accumulation of power and wealth, they start exploiting. They start exploiting. Exploitation of whom? Exploitation of the poor, let us say. See, basically, for suppose Marx divides the society into haves and have-nots. Haves and those who have and those who have not. Right? So it is this versus this. This versus this. So here the house means those who owns the wealth and resources of the state and they accumulate power and wealth. So accumulation of wealth and power by rich, or we will use house here, right? Accumulation of wealth and power by the house limits the choices of have-nots. This is what nothing but exploitation. This is what nothing but exploitation. So what is capitalism? Capitalism is where the ownership or control and ownership of wealth and resources were in the hands of few individuals, and it is profit oriented, and this leads to this ownership of wealth and resources in few hands leads to accumulation of wealth and power. With accumulation of wealth and power, that limits the choices of poor, right? So this is what capitalism. So socialism condemns this. Socialism condemns this. So that's why socialism is anti-capitalistic. Socialism is anti-competitive. Socialism is anti-competitive. Socialism emphasizes on fraternity. Socialism emphasizes on cooperation. Socialism emphasizes on social equity. Emphasizes on social control. It emphasizes on needs based rather than understood? So what is socialism? Socialism is anti-capitalist, anti-competitive, fraternity, that is common brotherhood, emphasis on cooperation, social equity, social control, and emphasis on needs rather than merits. Okay. Whereas, what is capitalism? Capitalism is emphasis on competitiveness, competition. Need based or merit based? Merit based. Collective or individual? Individual. Cooperative or private? Private. Equal distribution or profit oriented? Profit oriented. Understood now? Understood? So, what is socialism? Socialism is a social, economic and political concept which calls for public ownership and control of resource, wealth and resources rather than private ownership. Okay. And socialism emphasizes on public cooperation, public ownership, state ownership or social control, social enterprise or community ownership or cooperative in nature. So, according to socialism, in a society that a person does not live in isolation, rather he lives in cooperation. So, this means now we'll come to this. Okay. So, according to socialism, in a society, because socialism emphasizes on what? Cooperation with each other. Let us say we four are part of a society. We four are part of, so we live in cooperation. This is very important. We live in cooperation. We live in cooperation with each other. What does that mean? Here, whatever we produce, how we produce individually or we produce collectively? We produce collectively. In our example, I am saying, we four are part of a society, so we produce something collectively, right? And what we produced is considered a social good, a product, social product, social good. Who will have share in this? Then why you are thinking that much? It's like a rocket science. If we four collectively produced something, who will have share in it? We all have share in it. So that means everyone means as part of this group. Generally according to needs only. According to needs only. So it's not about the merit. According to needs only. That means but everyone will have a share in it. So that's why. But in capitalism, you produce your thing, I produce mine. So we are living in isolation or we are living in cooperation? Isolation. In socialism, we are living in cooperation. So in socialism, a person lives in cooperation with each other and have a share in the social good they collectively produce. In capitalism, there is no collective production. There is only individual production. So in capitalism, the person lives in isolation with each other. So there is no concept of collective production or cooperation, right? So that is like you can also say socialism is collective management of the economy. Got it? So, understood? So, that is about socialism. Now, coming to the rise of socialism. Rise of socialism. Yes, obviously it emerged after. That's why because of this exploitation, and this exploitation was carried by whom? So basically, let us say capitalism leading to exploitation of wealth and resources, where haves gets benefits and who gets affected? Have nots. So it is exploitation by haves against have nots. So who are haves here in capitalistic society? That is the bourgeois. And who are the have nots here in the capitalistic society? Proletariat. So this is middle class, and this is working class. The middle class, the merchant class, who became the capitalist class, who exploited the lower class, that is working class. Especially this occurred during, or this is a product of, capitalism is a product of industrial revolution. Understood? Right? So that is the concept of what? Huh? Socialism. We're talking about socialism. Capitalism. Acha. No. Overall. See, just now we have discussed about what is socialism and all. So, origin of socialism, or the roots of origin of socialism, has in industrial revolution. So it is like post-industrial revolution, the concept of because industrial revolution led to what? First of all, tell me that. Industrial revolution led to what? Industrial revolution led to what? Exploitation by haves, that is capitalist class, exploitation of working class. So especially this exploited working class suffered from various issues like unemployment, low wages, unequal wages, long working hours. Why unemployment? It's a good question actually. Initially, during the time of transition of economy from agri-based to manufacturing-based. Okay, so when this manufacturing has started, it provided employment to many. पता क्यों? Complaint. So that's why you two have no duty today. You're off duty. Okay, but from past 2 months, you're the ones who are doing it for 3-4 months actually. Shashank is surprised actually by seeing, huh? Shashank? What I'm saying? See, because especially during this transition from agro-based economy to production-based economy, employment was generated actually. Employment was generated. But at the same time, there was a massive shift in labor from agri to manufacturing. When this massive shift was there, that means it created overburdening of industry. Created overburdening of industry. So this will put pressure on industry. So that leads to what? Unemployment. Are you getting? Suppose the rate at which expansion of manufacturing is not equal to the rate at which shift of labor towards manufacturing. So this leads to what? Unemployment. Only if this rate and this rate matches, there will be employment for all. But the people who are shifting towards manufacturing, seeking work, are more than the available jobs, then obviously it creates unemployment. So unemployment ultimately affects the poor. They have to wait for nearly 3 months, 4 months to enroll, to get themselves enrolled into work. And in fact, Europe have seen such kind of situations where these people who migrates to, because see again one thing, this also coincides with migration of people from rural to urban areas. Rural to urban areas. See, it's like a chain actually. Manufacturing started, industrial revolution got started. Industrial revolution resulted in urbanization. Resulted in urbanization. With urbanization started, so urbanization ultimately leads to could not able to find work. And in such scenario, they have to wait for a few months to get work. So they have to stand in queues for long hours. They have to get themselves enrolled, and then they will get a call later, and then they will be provided employment. You got it? Because the rate of migration or rate of switch is not equal to the rate of growth in manufacturing sector, right? So this industrial revolution have seen various negative externalities like unemployment, low wages, unequal wages, poor living conditions, unhygienic living conditions, lack of sanitation, lack of ventilation, hazardous equipment, long working hours. So these are various aspects working class have suffered greatly. And that's why, because of these issues only, that led to another struggle, which especially Marx talks about, that is class struggle, because of this exploitative nature. Okay, so talking about this origin and rise of socialism. So this was started under why? That was a dynasty in Russia. Why that came? No. I'm talking it as a not as a revolution, but as a concept. Hmm? Huh? How? I'm asking the question. Evolution of socialism. Like, who was the founding father of socialism? Who was the founding father of socialism? Who was known to be? See, who was the earliest philosopher, earliest thinker to influence socialistic ideas? Huh? No. Rousseau. It was by Rousseau. Who gave? No, it's different. We'll come to that later. Rousseau has given the social contract theory. I have mentioned the earlier day. What? Man is born free, yet everywhere he is in chains. So this actually, this social contract theory have greatly influenced what? During when? Huh? I told you already, his ideas had a great impact on French Revolution. So, however, as I already mentioned, was this French Revolution was a great success, or was the aim of the French Revolution was established during French Revolution? No, because what is this French Revolution? It was a reaction of, it is a reaction of third estate against the first two estates. I have already mentioned this. First estate, clergy; second estate, noble class; third estate, common people. So the French Revolution started as a reaction of third estate against the first and second estate, because the first and second estate were considered to be the privileged classes who enjoyed all the privileges under the monarchy, right? Whereas all the burden was on third estate. So the third estate reacted in the form of revolution, which we call it as French Revolution. Obviously, there are different phases in French Revolution, but I'm just speaking in a overall sense. Okay, but is this French Revolution? See, why this French Revolution started? It started as an exploitation of. It started because the third estate was exploited by first and second estates. So this third estate started demanding for equal rights or social transformation. But what happened? French Revolution, did it establish that? Did it fulfill that aim of establishing an equal society? It had some impact. French Revolution had resulted in abolishing of monarchy. Initially, absolute monarchy was replaced by constitutional monarchy. Again, in 1795, constitutional monarchy was removed. and that was replaced by a directory, a national, initially National Assembly, later a directory. You got it? So that was, to some extent, that was a success. But the social, all the social evils were removed. The social evils which are existing in French society were removed by French Revolution? No. Right? So that resulted in rise of various voices promoting socialism. Out of these, the one was Francois Nobel Babeuf. Noel. Francois Noel Babeuf. So he was one of the earliest personalities to speak about the socialism. Right? Aiming for, demanding for a socialistic pattern of society. Right? But coming to the rise of socialism, we should speak of utopian socialism. See, there are two socialisms here. Utopian socialism and scientific socialism. What is the difference? What is the difference between these two? Huh? Okay, अच्छा. नहीं है. See, what is the ultimate objective? Huh? Establishing socialistic society. I already mentioned, socialistic society means what? Where the people live in cooperation with each other and equally shares the resources and wealth of the state. Okay. So in this context, we have utopian socialists and scientific socialists. So utopian socialism, like promoted by so program. So the promoters of utopian socialism was Henry Simon, Charles Fourier. So these are early ones actually, and Robert Owen, and along with Louis Blanqui, Proudhon, and many more. Michael, right? So What is utopian? Utopian is something, an ideal state, or a perfect state. What is this? So that is, an utopian society is a ideal society. Utopian society is a ideal. See, generally they themselves did not call them as utopians actually, but actually it was, the term, the name was given by Karl Marx. When he was criticizing the early socialists, he referred them as utopian socialists. So what is this utopian society means? An ideal society. An ideal society is what? What is ideal society? Ah, yes, yes, kind of that. Utopian societies where which is an ideal state or a perfect state where there is no exploitation, where all are happy. Where all are happy. When all will be happy? When all's needs were fulfilled. When all's needs were fulfilled. So, according to these socialists, what they are saying that by establishing small utopian communities, the society gradually transforms itself to utopian society. That means, are they emphasizing? Are they emphasizing on any class struggle here? There is no class struggle. Are they talking about any political revolution? No political revolution. So, are they talking about any revolt carried by the exploited classes? So, that's why, is it scientific or unscientific? Unscientific. So, they were just hoping that by establishing these small utopian communities, gradually the society will be getting society will transform into utopian society. Utopian society means where the society is ideal, where everyone will be. So that is the reason. So that means it rejected what? It rejected any class struggle or political revolution. So emphasize on what? Emphasize on what? The gradual transformation of society. Understood? So this is the utopian socialism. It was completely rejected by Marx. So if you talk about the other one, that is scientific socialism. What is it? What is this scientific socialism? That such socialism, that such socialistic society can be created only through class. Basically, why we are calling it as scientific, because Marx have identified the classes, identified and he identified that society is of haves and have-nots, and he identified that these haves were the exploiting class and the have-nots were the exploited class, and he identified that this exploitation is prevalent in every form of in every society in different forms, right from ancient to modern, which I have mentioned earlier. In ancient, there was haves and have-nots, exploitation of have-nots by haves. So, and that's why he gave a scientific approach to socialism, and because he criticized utopian socialists, because he criticized that utopian socialists are, or utopian socialism was unscientific in nature. He criticizes that utopian socialists have neglected the forces and impulses of this exploitation. They neglected the forces and impulses of this exploitation, and he also criticizes them that utopian socialists have failed to understand the negative externalities of the capitalism, right? And they also fail to understand the nature of different societies and different types of exploitation under this capitalistic society, right? So that's why he gave a scientific approach to socialism through different methods. Actually, he have given the concept of theory of class struggle, theory of economic determinism, uh, theory of dialectic, right? Through his books Communist Manifesto, Thus Capital, and Critique on or explanation on the new capitalist economy, right? So that is the background of socialism. So we'll see Marxism, that is a Marx socialism separately. First we'll complete this part. Okay. So put the heading origin and rise of socialism. Put the heading socialism. The topic is under that presiding socialism. Socialism is a social socialism is a social, economic, are you following online students? Right. Socialism is a social, economic, and political doctrine that calls for that calls for public public rather than that calls for public rather than public rather than private ownership, private ownership and control of private ownership and control of property and resources. It involves next point. It involves social ownership or social control of social ownership or social control of means of production and cooperative management of economy. Socialism emphasizes on common ownership or state ownership or cooperative enterprise or social equity or social control or combination of these. Combination of these. Okay. According to socialistic view, according to socialistic view, comma, in a society, in a society, an individual does not live or work in isolation, does not live or work in isolation, work. but in cooperation. But in cooperation. Everything, next point, everything people produce, everything people produce in a sense is a social product in a sense. SENSE. In a sense. In a sense. In a sense, comma. In a sense is a social product or social good. Social product or social good. And everyone has share in it. Okay. According to socialists, or according to them, according to them, society should own and control society should own and control ownership of resources for benefit of all. So no. Society should own and control, simply read property. Own or control property for benefit of all. Okay. Elements of socialism. Write them. You can also add done. Done. This one also. All. Capitalism. it is an economic doctrine. It is an economic doctrine which involves involves private ownership and control of private ownership and control of wealth and resources, and it is profit oriented. Capitalism leads to, once again, that is capitalism, right? Right, elements of capitalism. I have written somewhere, no? I have written somewhere actually. But elements of capitalism, I wrote somewhere. 4 5 elements I have written. Yeah, okay. अच्छा 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 अच्छा, we lost a page in between. Delete करना है. ठीक है, कोई बात. That's why I'm thinking like fifth page is the last. Fourth is the last page. Write this: competitive, merit based, individualistic, both, either. Capitalism was a product of capitalism is a product of industrial revolution, product of industrial revolution, which led to rise of which led to rise of which led to rise of two classes. One second. Uh, hmm, which led to rise of haves and have-nots. Which led to rise of haves and have-nots. Just write what are haves here and what are have-nots here. Haves, this is haves. So just write like this. Just इसको छोड़ के haves, have-nots. That is bourgeois, middle class. Have-nots were proletariat, working class. Hmm. to the subheading. Criticism of capitalism by socialism. Capitalism by socialism. Socialism was a response to evils of industrial revolution and capitalism. Evils of industrial revolution and capitalism. Capitalism leads to unfair 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 FAIR unfair and exploitative accumulation of wealth and power. People with wealth and power dominates the society and limits the options and choices of the poor. And limits the options and choices of the poor. It impacts the freedom and equality of opportunity. It impacts the freedom and equality of opportunity. Accumulation of wealth or capital wealth or capital generates accumulation of wealth or capital generates waste waste waste. Hmm? Waste through externalities. Waste through externalities that requires costly corrective measures. No. Corrective. Costly corrective. Amit. Costly corrective, not collective. Corrective measures. Understood by that point? Last point. Accumulation of, that is capitalism, generates waste in the sense, like for suppose burning of fossil fuels, burning of fossil fuels leading to global warming, leading to, because what is released here, more CO2 was added to atmosphere, leading to rise in temperature. That's what we call it as global warming. Global warming is the result of what? Capitalism. Global warming is the result of capitalism. Now, costly corrective measures are required to control global warming. The effect of industrial revolution, that is capitalism, is global warming. But now we have to take measures. Which measures? Costly measures. Costly measures to correct the effects of capitalism. For suppose, let us take another thing, like same capitalism results in uh, any waste. Let us say e-waste. Let us say example of e-waste. So obviously e-waste will be more with increasing capitalism, right? But with dumping of e-waste into the environment requires costly corrective measures in future. You get me? So that's why, that's the point is saying that capitalism results in generating waste through externalities which requires costly corrective measures. So that is criticism of socialism on capitalism. Okay. So now evolution of socialism. Ashu, is the screen is getting shared for you? I'm just scrolling the pages. Is the screen shared? Don't say it from the video. Don't say it from the video. I'm asking about the screen sharing. Obviously, video you can see. Video you can see the, but from video you cannot write it, no? You can write it only from screen sharing. Okay, one second. Now it is shared. Right. Evolution of socialism. The origin of socialism. The origin of socialism as a political concept was started during French Revolution. Okay. The French Revolution was influenced by the work of Rousseau, social contract theory, which he opined. Write that line. But French Revolution, though it put an end to autocratic rule, though it put an end to end. What happened to it today? It put an end to autocratic rule, but it failed to create an era of equality. But it failed to create an era of era of equality, era of equality. There was a wide gap between aims of French Revolution. There was a wide gap between aims of French Revolution and actual condition of people actual condition of people in France after French Revolution. It led to discontent among the people, discontent among them, and it was developed by Francois Noel Babeuf, Francois Noel Babeuf, and his work Conspiracy of Equals. Francois Noel Babeuf was considered as father of socialism. Was considered as father of socialism. Advocated socialistic ideas. Advocated socialistic ideas and decided to overthrow French government directory and set up Society of Equals. Society of French government. French government director means actually again there's a background for it actually. I can say simply it's a government in France, but unable. So French Revolution started in when 1789. The government, that is generally Estates General. Estate General is an assembly actually, which consists of 3 estates: first estate, second estate, third estate. Government is, there is actually no government. It is only absolute monarchy. In 1789, the third estate revolted and demanded for constitutional reforms. So since the revolt, 291, it was called as in 1791, constitutional changes were brought and that established Legislative Assembly. That's the government action. And in 1792, again constitutional changes were brought that established a new form of government, National Convention. And again in 1795, another revolution. As part of revolution, the National Convention under Jacobins were overthrown, and that was replaced by Directory. And again in 1799, the Directory was overthrown, and that was replaced by Constitution. Clear? So 1891 National Assembly, 91 to 92 Legislative, 92 to 95 National Convention, 95 to 99 Directory, 99 onwards Consulate was under. So again in this Consulate, democracy कुछ नहीं. हाँ, French Revolution is like monarchy replaced by another monarchy. Monarchy replaced by dictator. Because consulate, first consul, second consul. Who was the first consul? Napoleon. So Napoleon, in fact, what he did? He took all the powers from other consuls. So ultimately, when someone overtakes power of all, that means it is like so. That's why 1802 onwards, it was Napoleonic era. Napoleonic era continued till 1813, and finally he was put to an end in 18. The Battle of Waterloo. Waterloo. Initially, he was defeated in Battle of Leipzig, but again he tried to recover that, and he finally defeated in Battle of Waterloo. Okay. So that is. Monarchy is an institution. Dictator is a person, nature. So that is your directory. So what are you writing? Last point. Now put the heading. You have written this now. So put the heading. Udo instructions. Never exists. No, that's why Karl Marx criticized it. How can it exist? It's a dream. Okay, in war, entire period you are asking. Yes. Societies existed like tribal societies, like societies, ideal states where everyone has equal share or equal say in the resources. That is like mythological. Like a dream that will never becomes real. It is the first wave of modern socialistic thought. It is the first wave of modern socialistic thought. It is pre-Marxist. It's a pre-Marxist, right? It is a pre-Marxist socialist thought. The term utopian, next point. The term utopian socialism was introduced by the term utopian socialism was introduced by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in their Communist Manifesto. Okay. It's a book. It's a work of. Through that only he explained socialism. 1848. 1848. It was proposed by can you write the names? Write those names. Utopian socialists. Can you see, Shashank? Louis Blanc, BLANC. You want him also? Michael Bakunin. Michael Bakunin. Okay. Next, to the heading, side heading within this characteristics of utopian socialism, or simply characteristics. It presented a vision for. It presented a vision for imaginary or futuristic ideal societies. Imaginary or futuristic ideal societies. Ramraj is like our concept. Both are like more or less same. Like Ramraj is something which involves or emphasizes on Sarvodaya and Antyodaya. Sarvodaya means equality of all. Antyodaya means upliftment of the poorest of the poor. So that's like if if a society is of Antyodaya and Sarvodaya, then it is Ramraj. That is like more or less socialistic society only. But one thing is like Gandhian socialism is something like see, Marxian socialism is like of class struggle. Gandhian socialism is not of class struggle. No, it's like this one. What do you read? Next, read on. It believed the possibility to work within and reform capitalist society. Possibility to work within and reform the capitalist society. It emphasized the gradual transformation of society through foundation of small utopian communities. They didn't believe in they didn't believe in they did not believe in any form of class struggle or political revolution. Any form of class struggle or political revolution. They believed that people of all classes can voluntarily adopt their plan for society. They felt this form of cooperative socialism. They felt that this form of cooperative socialism can be established among like-minded people. Like-minded people means people having similar thoughts. Suppose we are all of animal conservators. Now we three are like-minded people within existing society. Okay, within existing society. That is, these are the characteristics of utopian. Right? Criticism of utopian socialism. It is not being grounded in actual material conditions of society. It is not being grounded in, that means it failed to understand the actual material conditions of the society. It is not being grounded in actual material conditions of society. Actual material conditions of society. It is impractical and ineffective. It is impractical and ineffective. It failed to analyze scientific evolution of socialism. It failed to analyze scientific evolution of socialism. Critics emphasized on critics emphasized more on political action. Critics emphasized more on political action, which was neglected by it. It failed to analyze. It failed to analyze correctly. Analyze correctly the forces and impulses which govern human nature. It failed to recognize why it was that socialism arose. Why it was that socialism arose in historical context. In historical context. Okay, so that is about utopian socialism. Okay. So tomorrow we'll see Karl. Karl Marx, scientific socialism. Suhravarti. Say silsila. Silsila. Silsilas, no, like Sufis. Sufis, under Sufism, they established the Sufi order called silsila. Chishti, Suhravarti, Naqshbandi, Qadri, they all silsilas. Fifth one. Ja. Purcharishnu. Like a weapon which used by the Aryans in the wars. ऐसे क्वेश्चंस आएगा ना, यूपीएससी में नहीं आएगा, ये विजन वाले ना, विजन में नहीं, यूपीएससी में नहीं आएगा। अगर आएगा तो एक एक क्वेश्चन आएगा ऐसा रेयरली। हाँ, बुद्धिज्म वाला ना, माध्यमक और माध्यमिका, मिडिल पाथ। Maध्यamika middle path is like a Buddhist philosophy actually. Like middle path is something rejecting this extreme and this extreme. This extreme is complete asceticism. This extreme is complete luxury life. Complete sannyasi life, complete luxurious life. वो दोनों छोड़ो, एक मिडिल पाथ होता है, वो मिडिल पाथ फॉलो करो. दैट इज अष्टांगिक मार्ग, दैट इज माध्यमिका पाथ. वो भी बुद्धिस्ट फिलॉसफी के. Both are like Mahayana schools actually, Mahayana philosophy. ಅನೇಕಂತ ಪದ ಸಬ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಜೈನಿಸಮ್. ಅನೇಕ 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 ಅಂತ ಪದ, ಅನೇಕ ಅಂತ, ಅನೇಕ means many. It means every aspect have many possibilities. Looking at all possibilities, all viewpoints should be taken into consideration. Right? Thank you.